Today we are going to deal with a topic in our syllabus which is referred to as adversarial search. And in that, what is mentioned in your syllabus is to study two algorithms, one called as Minimax algorithm, and the second one is referred to as the alpha beta pruning, which improves the basic idea of Minimax algorithm. So we are going to dedicate some time in understanding what exactly is adversarial search, how it relates to the state space search that we have learned up to this point, and what are the nuances of an adversarial environment. Okay, we already know something called as an multi-agent environment in chapter number 2, which involves having multiple agents working in a environment which we are trying to develop AI system to solve for. In multi-agent environment, I may have one agent for whom I'm designing the AI solution, and that agent may have some other agent who may help him to achieve his goal, or who may have other agents which are trying to pull that agent down for whom we are designing the solution. So in a way, I may have in multi-agent environment two different kinds of multi-agent environment. One could be competitive and the other could be cooperative multi-agent environment. Whenever you hear the word adversary or adversarial, it means we are talking about an environment which has adversary of an agent present. So the word adversary means an anti-hero. Our agent is our hero, then the adversary would be the anti-hero, and exactly that is what we expect in such situations where we apply the adversarial search. Okay, the agent environment is multi-agent environment, and it is a competitive multi-agent environment. We assume for the sake of discussion that we have in our syllabus that this multi-agent environment is involving two agents. One is the one agent is for whom we are developing the search-based solution, and the other agent is the adversary of the agent for whom we are building the solution. So two agent adversarial environment that involves us doing not usual state space search, but a different variant of state space search, which is called as adversarial search. So the problem itself is called as an adversarial search problem. Just like the problem involving single agent, we used to refer it as state space search problem because we wanted to search the goal node. Similarly, here also we want to search a goal node that will, in addition to reaching the goal, make the agent's utility function maximized and his adversary get the exact opposite value with respect to the utility function. So I'll just give you a brief idea through the content of the book, the preface or introductory part of the books. So we actually talk about different kinds of games here, such adversarial situations where there are two opponents and they interact in a specific manner with each other, and there are certain more restriction attached to this environment, are referred to as games. You must have played games along your way up to this age, and the board games especially that you play, like chess, like the games in which you people take turns. Okay, those two opponents are there and you take turns. So first the first opponent plays, then the second opponent plays, then the first opponent plays. So all the board games where this kind of scene you see, they are the candidates for the adversarial search problems that we are going to discuss. Okay, we also have a separate field of study which is called as mathematical game theory, which is basically a branch of economics. It branches out from economics, which views the multi-agent environment as a game. So it actually builds up a game that is having multiple agents involved in a particular real world scenario. And many economical theories are based on mathematical game theory as the background field. But this game and the word game that we are going to refer to in this particular chapter, they are not that way exactly connected with each other. The games that we are going to talk about will have these three characteristics that they have listed over here. First of all, these games that we are going to talk about are zero sum games. They are perfect information games, and some of the other facts about it is they involve two players and they are turn taking. They play in a manner that they take turns. They are turn taking. So I have two players. Sorry, I'm not using that. Should use this. So there are two player games. They are turn taking. When I use the word game, it involves multiple players. This instance involves two players, and players are obviously adversary. So I'm not again saying that they are adversary of each other. So their goals are conflicting. That is what adversary means. But whenever I say zero sum games, this information comes into picture. So if I want to describe what sort of games we are talking about, I should say, or I should describe those games as zero sum games, games with perfect information, games having two players, and the games where you take turns. That is, first player plays his ply, and then the second player plays his ply. Till the time second player plays his ply, first player waits, and then the first player again applies his own ply. So this is called as turn taking games. Okay, so these are formal games. Again, they are formally represented games. Chess could be one such games, because in chess we know there is a single board which is manipulated by two players, player 1 and player 2. Okay, so I'm showing two heads for second player. First, this is one player 1, this is player 2, and this is my chessboard. So first player plays, say, suppose he is representing the white side of the board, then he will use his ply in order to manipulate the board content. Once that is done, then the second player will have his own turn. This is the way the chess happens. Similarly, carom, if you see, the game that we generally play in leisure time, would also be considered as turn taking. One player plays, then he waits for the other player for his turn. When the other player plays his turn, the first player again plays himself. Now, the interesting part about these games is that we cannot do search based on certainty, because we can know what actions we are going to take into account. But what about the opponent? How can we consider that opponent is going to surely play a particular move in response to the move that we are performing, or that the move that we are applying? Okay, so basically these things should come into your mind when you want to actually use off the shelf technique of state space search. Any algorithm in state space search, if I want to use, I should be certain that when I apply a particular action, I should get into a particular state, and my next action should take me to the next state. But in this particular turn taking games, you will naturally feel that once I select one of the action which is a valid action for me to do in a particular scenario, next action is not my action, but it is the action of the opponent. So I should, if I want to deliberate my path towards the solution, I should also be able to deliberate what actions the opposite person or the opponent is going to do. So that is how things are different. So I may still have a state space tree generated, but this state space tree will have different colored different colored levels representing different players who are going to take decisions of how to take the play ahead. For instance, if I'm representing player 1's actions with red color, player 2's actions with yellow color, then the tree that I'm drawing right now, which has every player only choice of one of the two actions at any point in time, okay, should give rise to a state space tree like this. Okay, which is going to have two different colored levels. One level belongs to player 1, I should say, sorry, player 1 I should say, and the other level belongs to a decision point that player 2 decides what action to perform. So that is how we could think of the problem that we are going to solve, and this problem is generally referred to as an adversarial search problem. Okay, so I'll just read it for you what the book says about this problem rather than speculating things. Okay, so although the mathematical game theory, which is a part of economics, views multi-agent environment as a game, okay, this word game considers that impact of every agent that comes into picture is very significant on all the other agents. So if one agent plays a particular thing or applies certain action on the environment, all the other agents and their actions get affected significantly, regardless of whether the agents are cooperating and or competitive. So we already talked about what do you mean by cooperation and competition. So cooperation means that the agents' goals are going to be in sync. So whatever is the goal of first agent is the same goal that the other agent is having. So these agents will be referred to then as cooperative. Otherwise, the agents are competitive. That is, their goals are contradicting each other. One agent achieves his goal means the other agent loses his goal. In reality, in real world scenario, there are often the cases where there is no perfect competition. That is, one person wins does not always mean all the other persons lose. It may be the case that one person wins and the other person gets certain points, and still they have certain level of satisfaction of competing in the game. But certain games like chess, if one player wins, the other player has to lose. So the one player's utility value, if I say +1, if he wins, then the other person's utility value is always -1. So the overall accumulated utility value for all the agent on an average, if I see, in case of two agent, it will be only two agents. So I'll just add the utility value of both the agents. In case of chess, one person wins, the other person loses. Person winning gets utility +1, say, and person losing will have utility -1 because he loses. And if I do a sum, I will get 0 as the average sum over all the agents' utility value. Okay, so that's the meaning of the word zero-sum games. Now, what do you mean by perfect information game? That means the environment is fully observable and it is deterministic. So perfect information game applies to these two characteristics of agent environment that we already discussed. The agent environment should be deterministic. So I do apply an action, I should be able to predict perfectly what should be the next state the environment gets into. Fully observable means based on whatever percepts I have about the environment, I should be able to determine the state of the environment completely. So fully observable and deterministic environment is there. That is referred to as a game that has perfect information. Zero-sum game, I just told you what it means. It means that the game is deterministic, it is turn taking, it is two-player, and the sum of utility value of all the agents, in case both the agents, I should say, is 0 at the end of the game. So I should be able to understand when the game ends. I should be able to understand when a turn ends for one player and turn starts for the other player. Okay, so deterministic turn taking two-player zero-sum games that have perfect information are the games that we are going to concentrate on. That's the clear idea that we get about adversarial situation or adversarial search. Now, what we are going to do in this particular topic is learn about a variation to the basic idea of search algorithms that will help us support decision making for a player out of these two players. So we will be only designing an AI for one of the two players that are competing. So if I'm designing an AI for, say, player X in an XY combination, X and Y, two players are competing with each other, then X will be the player for which I will be designing a solution. So I will find a way to do next move that optimizes the utility function of X. So all the algorithms that we are going to study, they focus on maximizing utility function for the agent for whom we want to design AI for. So that is the whole idea about the algorithms that we're going to study